There are solutions to many of the problems we're facing. Humanity has the creativity, we have the resources, we have the technologies, we could solve these problems. That makes it all the more tragic that we aren't, right? But we must be clear, there's nothing objective which says we can't solve these problems. And if you don't believe me, I can prove it by telling you that all over the world people are solving these problems. There are many cities which have decided to become zero emission cities, right? There are businesses, corporations which are moving on to sustainable path. There are all sorts of organizations all over the world committed to tackling this problem. And we've discovered a lot of things. We've discovered, first of all, you can do it. We've also discovered that it isn't expensive. Because everybody says, oh, it's too expensive, we can't do that. If we deal with the climate, we will stop our growth. Simply not true. What we're talking about is a different style of growth which can be just as good and in fact much better than the present path of economic growth. So you can't even say that it's too expensive. And I think another terribly simple message which most people can understand is the following. When you talk about economic costs of dealing with climate change and you do beautiful fine calculations about what it might cost if you did this or that, you have to compare those costs, whatever they are, with the costs of doing nothing. And the cost of doing nothing about climate change will be devastation worldwide. First, for the poor and underprivileged who cannot defend themselves, and then ultimately, as we see in California, even for the rich. So the real costs of not acting are infinitely higher than the costs of acting. But that's not how the arguments are presented. People argue all the time, it's too expensive to do anything about it. That's nonsense. The fact is, we can do something about it. It will be, in the long run, much cheaper to act. And the earlier we act, the cheaper it is. So all the delay has only had the result that we are closer to the edge and it has become much more expensive to deal with it.
You can't talk about that, can't talk about the solutions without changing our energy portfolio, how we use energy, energy efficiency, getting cleaner forms of energy, renewable energy. And the only way that you can do that is to change three basic factors. One, of course, is technology. We tend to talk a lot about solar technology, microgrids, wind technology, hydropower. The list goes on. And that's a good start, but you need two other components. And one is partnerships. You need partnerships across the public sector, government to government, intra-government departments and agencies. And importantly, you need partnerships with the private sector. Private sector is generating a lot of good ideas, and these need to be adopted and adapted to government responsibilities and government initiatives. And then lastly, in addition to technology and partnerships, to make a difference, you need to change culture. And there's only one sure way to change culture, and that is through education. You need to tell people about what is going on, the nature of problems, the availability of solutions, and by empowering them with knowledge, you start to change how they value the environment, how they value energy, and it's so important. So education is absolutely critical.